and company representatives, dear ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honor and pleasure to welcome you all at this very important conference today. Today is definitely a day where the German-Romanian economic relations will receive further energy and hopefully concrete steps to expand in the future. Business is based on relations and dialogue, and that is what we want to assure today. We are looking at a very intensive, trustful, and constructive economic partnership between our two countries. The Recovery and Resilience Program, the Green Deal transformation, the reform agenda of the current Romanian government, the digital transformation in all sectors, just to name some examples, are challenges, definitely. But at this time, these challenges will also open various business opportunities for everybody. And I'm sure that this transformational spirit will not only lead to the result that we will overcome the economic difficult times today due to Corona, but it will put us into a position to master the transformation and create sustainable growth and welfare for our two countries. I wish you all a very, very interesting conference and an enriching dialogue. Of course, last but not least, I would like to thank all sponsors and partners helping us to organize this wonderful conference. Thank you very much, everybody, that you are here today in this very, very important conference once again. And I would like to hand over to Anja Quiring, Regional Director, Southeast Europe at the German Eastern Business Association. The Ausschuss is with us, the co-organizer of this wonderful conference, and of course, a long-standing partner for AHK. Thank you, Anja, for helping us, supporting us to organize this wonderful conference. The floor is yours.
Dear Mr. Dreyer-Volker, and ladies and gentlemen, thanks a lot again to Sebastian for introducing already to this conference, because actually these were my words. So once again, we see the German Eastern Business Association and the AHK are finally speaking with one voice, the voice of the German business. Thanks a lot for giving me the floor for just this minute. It's my pleasure to welcome you all on behalf of the German Eastern Business Association, the Ausschuss, to this event. My special thanks, or our special thanks, goes to the Romanian government for this tremendous support of this conference, and the mayors who have joined our invitation, the company representatives who will share their experience with the Romanian market today, and Sebastian already mentioned, also to our sponsors for supporting and making this event happen. Sebastian mentioned already, the aim is to continue the dialogue, which is really an essential word for the things we try to do. Once we try to improve the business climate together, we need this dialogue, and we are really thankful for having this dialogue over the last years, and to intensify our bilateral economic relations, and to present, and this is also, I think, what's something very important, Romania with its potential and in economic terms to potential investors, and we hope to see much more coming in. I'm really happy that we, the AHK and the Ausschuss, took this decision to organize this conference right now, and would like to express my special thanks to the team of AHK for this wonderful cooperation, which is part of our tradition, and definitely we will have a future full of work for the next months. So again, welcome to all participants to this conference. I wish you all fruitful discussions and interesting contacts at the network platform, and looking forward to the contributions of our speakers. And so I hand over back to Bucharest.
Thank you very much, Anja, for your kind words. And once again, thank you for being with us. The next speaker, Dr. Volker Dreyer, is Head of Foreign Trade and a member of the Executive Board of the Association of German Chambers of Commerce and Industry, the DIHK in Berlin. The DIHK, Volker, with your team, you coordinate the network of bilateral chambers of commerce, like the one here in Romania, in more than 92 countries. It's a pleasure to also have you here. Thank you very much for joining. Volker.
Thank you, Sebastian, and thank you, Anja. Greetings from one side of the street here in Berlin at the House of German Business to the other. But special welcome, of course, to Prime Minister Situ, President of Senate of Romania, Drago, Deputy Prime Minister Bana, our State Secretary, Claudia der Vos, our Ambassador, Kortmeier Claude, the AHK President, Andreas Lier, Excellencies, Ministers, panelists. So I'm very pleased to speak today on behalf of the Associations of German Chambers of Commerce and Industry, the DIHK. But honestly, I would be even more pleased to be there in Bucharest with you in person. Maybe we can make this happen another year, and I'm longing for. As Sebastian has said, DIHK coordinates a wonderful network in more than 90 countries and with 140 locations, and one location and one chamber is in Bucharest, and with some affiliations as well. And this is one of our favorite chambers, I have to say, with a tradition of almost 20 years. And the network has a tradition of more than 125 years, I guess, in the meantime. So thank you all the partners for organizing this forum today. Romania in dialogue with German businesses. That's the motto of today. And the dialogue between our two countries is based on friendship for many, many years now. And our bilateral relations are closely linked. And this is also true for our business relations. Germany is Romania's most important trading partner. In 2020, the bilateral trade volume amounted almost 30 billion euros. And the development this year is really encouraging. The bilateral trade picked up compared to previous years year by more than 15% on both sides of the balance sheet, the imports and the exports. 7,500 German companies are located in Romania and employ more than 220,000 people in Romania, and German direct investments are steadily increasing, and they amount almost 12 billion euros last year. And the investment plans are on the rise due to relocation, reshoring, nearshoring activities, which figured out a survey among our member companies in the network. Yeah. Investments from partially from Far East coming back to Europe, and Romania is in the spot. So the figures show the long-term commitment and strong engagement of German businesses in the region and in Romania especially. German investors appreciate Romania as a location for their business activities, and the business outlook I mentioned shows really a positive trend. Almost every second company surveyed in our AHK business worldwide business survey expect their economic situation to improve over the next 12 months. The downside of this economic progress is the lack of qualified labor as a challenge for the development. And in this respect, Sebastian and his team, they are very active in order to dampen this downside risk of the development. Overall, Romania and Germany is a success story. And the German-Romanian Chamber of Commerce and Industry in Bucharest is at center stage for this success story. It builds a solid bridge for our traditional business relations for almost 20 years. The Chamber is the first point of contact, and meanwhile the AHK, how we call it, counts more than 600 members. And the Chamber has been very active in recent years, and let me just name one initiative which also fits to today's program. The Green Tech Platform Econet Romania, which promote cooperation in the field of construction, energy, and environmental issues. So thanks to AHK Romania, thanks to you, Sebastian, your entire team. Let me include in this thank the former AHK president, Dr. Anastasio, for his commitment for all the years. And at the same time, let me congratulate the new president, Andreas Lier. I know him. He has been the AHK president in the Ukraine as well. And for me, it's a bit like the tale of hare and tortoise. Yeah, how we say Hase and eagle. He's always there when I'm arriving. Yeah, he is very quick. Andreas, greetings here from Berlin, and thanks to the German embassy in Bucharest, with which we are cooperating so closely and in such a very fine manner. Ambassador Kurt Meyer-Claude, thank you very much. And at this point, I would also like to hand over my gratitude to the Federal Ministry for Economic Affairs and Energy here in Berlin for its many years of support of our worldwide network. So ladies and gentlemen, there is still a big potential in our economic relations. Opportunities are also offered by the European Union Recovery Fund. In addition to digitalization, the transformation to a green economy is the next big challenge for Germany, for Europe, I guess also for Romania, and hopefully also for the whole globe. And this development is just one issue in which Germany and Romania can further expand and deepen their cooperation in the upcoming years. So I wish everyone a successful forum, fruitful discussion. Thank you, vielen Dank, and mulțumesc. Back to Sebastian.
Mulțumesc, Volker. Thank you very much for your nice words and also for your thoughts already. We will discuss all what you have mentioned, the keywords in our following panel discussion, in the main panel discussion, which will start right after the welcoming speeches, and also in the 4 thematic workshops in the morning and in the afternoon of this wonderful conference. So once again, thanks to the IHK, and Volker mentioned already, of course, one strategic partner. I would say a strategic partner is, of course, the German Ministry of Economics. And I would like to invite now Claudia der Voss, State Secretary at the German Ministry of Economics in Berlin, which unfortunately could not join us here today, but we could organize a video message in a very short term. Thank you very much for being our partner. Now I would like to hand over to my colleagues to start the video message of State Secretary der Voss. Geben Sie mir ein Signal, ne? Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Dörfos, for being here. Sorry, I just got informed that we have technical problems. I saw the video quite perfectly, so let us restart with the video. It's like on a television station here today, and sorry for this inconvenience. We will restart the video in a few seconds. Yeah. Not everything is perfect in this digital world, and everything has to be synchronized very well. I'm looking forward actually to this personal normal events. Then we don't have to be anymore a television station. But I think we will fix it. Please have a little bit patient with us. I hope now it's working. I do not get any information. Okay, wunderbar. We will solve these technical problems here right now, and I hope that Kurt Meyer-Claude, the German ambassador, is here with us. There he is. Perfectly. Thank you very much for helping us out once again. Kurt, thank you very much for this wonderful, wonderful partnership. I said it in another AHK event already with you. We had a wonderful partner in the German embassy. We achieved a lot during your mandate together, and now you are in this wonderful city, Sibiu, but digitally you are with us today here. Yeah, I would like to hand over to you for your welcoming message, Mr. Ambassador. The digital floor is yours.
Good morning. Good morning, everybody. And yes, I'm calling from Sibiu on a little trip to this lovely city. My background is very much less impressive than the one of others. Please forgive that, but I'm so glad to join this event, to be able to join this event. Madam President of the Senate, Prime Minister, Deputy Prime Minister, members of Parliament, ministers and secretaries of state, I'm glad to hear that our future ambassador to Germany, Mr. Nesco, is listening in. Dr. Dreyer, Frau Quiring, lieber Sebastian, this is a very, very timely event, full of opportunities, and I'm really delighted to be able to join in. I'm saying that against the background of now almost 4.5 years in Romania, and I really believe this is a moment of opportunity. And let me make it right away, very tangible. Just 10 days ago, one of our big companies invested in Romania, Drexelmeier, declared its readiness to invest 200 million euro in Timișoara for a new high-tech e-mobility production site for batteries, but much more than that. And what does that really tell us? One, the economy is ready to move to a new cycle, especially in the automotive. That was the case, as we well know, well before the pandemic, but I think it has been even triggered by the pandemic and fastened in its speed. It tells us that we are heading towards a greener, more digital industry, Industry 4.0 with more e-mobility. And it tells us, and that is really the important message, Romania is very much ready for that. With its young, agile workforce from good universities, an excellent precondition, especially for mid-tech and increasingly also the high-tech segment of the economy, meaning the segment of the future. Several big names, Deutsche Bank, Bosch, Continental, Infineon, and others have already combined production sites back-to-back with R&D in Romania. I think that is a great sign. And the interest from Germany is great, as we know by today's meeting. And I have been preparing this meeting, continuously mentioned that to the Prime Minister, many ministers already. Now, for Romania at this stage, with its new national rescue and resilience plan, is more than prepared for giving this new booster and new momentum to our cooperation. The main message I have shared with my partners here is send out the signal to the more than ready German economy. Why invest in Romania now? And I think this meeting today would be most fruitful if our Romanian partners make it very, very tangible to our German partners, the business partners, where they see them coming in, not just as investors for their own sake, but also, as is the good old tradition with German companies invested in this country, to be much more than that, to be a developer, not only of the economy, but of the education field, with, it was mentioned before, with the more vocational training, with their social engagement, really being, as before, Romania's close and trusted partner in this next cycle. I think this meeting today, especially also in the many, many concrete panels, will greatly benefit from being as tangible, as concrete as possible. Spell the program out, dear colleagues from Romania, to our German partners, and you, the German partners, ask your question, make your proposals, let our Romanian partners know where you think you can help in this process. I leave you with that. I trust that with these really wonderful partners coming together today during the day, this can only be a success, and I'm very, very grateful to the Prime Minister, especially also to the Deputy Prime Minister, for playing a major role in this today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for your kind words. Yes, I think this is the motto, let's call it like this, today, an invitation for dialogue, an invitation to create tangible, concrete collaboration between Germany and Romania. I like this very much in your welcoming speech. This is what we would like to achieve because this is how the economic bilateral relations will be further developed. You mentioned also Industry 4.0 and R&D. That's also the topic of one thematic workshop which begins at 1:30. We will discuss with the Minister for Research and Innovation, Mr. Telemann, and also Ms. State Secretary Saigo from the Ministry of Economics will be there, and also German company representative and Michael Tuada from the Ilfov County. So I hope that I already gave you a taste and interest to join this very interesting thematic workshop. The other one, which starts at 1:30, is about the Green Deal, and you, Mr. Ambassador, you mentioned it as well, that this green, sustainable development, economic development offers a lot of opportunities also here in Romania, when I think, for example, at the huge potential in the renewable energy area. This being said, I would like to hand over now to Anka Drago, the President of the Senate. We will solve the technical problems right away with the transmission of State Secretary de Vos. Sorry for this problems, but we will come to this later. Right now, I would like to give the floor to Anka. Anka is the first woman in this position of the President of the Senate. But the most, for me personally, the most important thing is that she is a dear friend to the AHK, a dear friend also to me. And I'm very, very grateful that she could join here today. Anka, the floor is yours. Thank you very much again for joining.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you, Sebastian, for your kind words. Dear guests, dear Mr. President of AHK Romania, dear Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, and colleagues in this call, in this event. It's my honor to be with you today, because I am a supporter of investments of the economy, and I understand the need of investments in our economy and in general. Investments are the key for a solid and sustainable growth model. And this is what we are building here in Romania. Economic figures for Romania look good despite the very difficult period of time we've been through. We see for the first quarter of 2021 that Romania registered the highest economic growth in the European Union. It's a growth of 2.8%, while the average EU, it's still on minus 0.4% real GDP growth. So we may say that we watered pretty well this very difficult period of time. And this is a very strong argument that Romanian economy is ready to absorb more investments. Just to come back to the question of His Excellency, the German ambassador, why to invest in Romania today? Because there's plenty of opportunities, and because the economy has enough resources to accommodate these new investments. But I want to talk a little bit about trust, which is the main component of investments. And we are fully aware. And I'm talking here about with the coalition, about myself as a politician with the helmet of an economist. We are fully aware of the need of trust and the dialogue between public sector and private sector. And what we've already delivered so far is significant trust and dialogue with the private sector. And this is, I'm talking here about many hours of discussions about the need of legal changes, about the support that private sector need in order to fulfill its objective, to allocate in the best way the resources the economy has. So I would not take too much of your time. I would just like to congratulate you for the event, to wish you good luck. And I'm here to continue our dialogue about the need of the private sector, of German investors, of all investors, in order to develop your projects in to help the Romanian economy. So all the best, and I stay here with you to listen to the next speakers. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Anka, for your kind words. Definitely. We here in Romania, the government, and I hope in this conference we can make this point very clear. We are targeting an investment growth strategy for Romania. It comes through own resources, but it also comes through the PNRE, through the Resilience and Recovery Program, for example. But also there are huge amounts of European funds through the multi-annual financial framework from the European Union. So there is a lot of money here available, and it's, I think, from my humble perspective, definitely the right strategy to build on investment. And investments are built on trust. Trust is built on dialogue, like you have mentioned. And I can say only, and I hope that this is also the result of the first panel, that there is a lot of optimism right now, a lot of energy actually in the business community. So the sentiments are right, the best position actually to start this lovely journey together for Romania. I will look right now to my colleagues whether we can start with the video transmission of State Secretary Der Vos, and then I will be soon back. So let's listen to Mrs. Der Vos. Okay, still we have this technical problems that it's not working. Sorry for this. Normally in the tests that we have made, everything worked well. I hope now we still have Mr. Ambassador and Anka with us here today, because also the Prime Minister will enter with his keynote at 11 o'clock. As I said, we are in a television station today, and everything has to be synchronized on the spot, and it shows that this is quite a big challenge for us. I would like to enter into a small dialogue with the German ambassador and Anka Drago regarding Romania, and I hope that you are still with me. Mr. Ambassador, now looking back on your mandate of 4.5 years here in Romania, we had a wonderful podcast together where we talked a little bit about a retrospective of Romania, your time here. And I would like to once again make the same question to you. What was what was the, let's say, what were the peaks and what were also the big challenges that you experienced here during your time in Romania, and maybe what is your perspective with this experience that you made here in Romania? What is your expectation for the next, let's say, 5 years for Romania? Is something has changed in the meantime? So let's make a retro perspective with peaks and challenges, and then let's have a look into the future, and then I would I would say also the same. I would like also to address the same questions to Anka. But first of all, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you, Sebastian. Yes, I mean, these were very interesting 4.5 years, which had quite a different color at the beginning, if I may put it that way. As we remember, the 2017 and for some years to go, there was quite a fierce internal discussion in the country over the maintenance of fight against corruption, maintenance of the our European values, if I can put it that way. And what I consider in hindsight one of the really stunning successes of the Romanian society, that through their will, through their own doing, with a great part also of the civil society, they won this fight. And the most impressive single event that I could mention in this context were the European elections 2 years ago, where Romanians, young Romanians, those who voted for the first time, took part in the elections in a number unheard before. I think in these elections it was almost a record high participation from Romania, and which also led to the democratic change in the government. Now, governments are never perfect. We struggle in Germany. We have coalitions. They are difficult. We see that now in Romania too. But really looking on this trajectory from a little bit of a political distance, if I may say, I see the enormous progress. Now we are in the normal game of political struggles. All partners are aiming towards the objectives that we share. Ms. Drago, and thank you for that, spoke of trust. I think is the most precious commodity that you have in politics, in the economy, in diplomacy, wherever you look. And Romania is making big steps in this direction. I hope with even more trust, little by little building up, at some point, Romania will be part of the Schengen space. But here again, it's trust most of all, and not some technical issues. So that's the political. In the economics, I've mentioned the opportunities, and I really strongly believe in that. This does not deny the remaining obstacles. Dr. Traia mentioned them. Of course, workforce, qualified, but not even just qualified workforce in general, is still a scarce commodity. That's why programs that the AHK promotes has been promoting for many years, like dual education. They need to move, I would say, from successful pilot projects, which we had, to a network across the entire country, because that is the key to developing areas that are less developed now, and that even our partners very much need, because we know the strongholds, Cluj, Klausenburg, Timișoara, Sibiu, or Kronstadt, they are already, there's very fierce competition there. So we need to reach out also to prevent the country from being divided into the successful regions and the less successful ones. So there's lots to do. But really, there is no better partner than the German economy in this. It's already now employer to 250,000 people, and being an employer is much more than that. It's really, as I said earlier, developing the country, the mindset of the people, and through the educational efforts and so on. No, there are issues. We mentioned them. The partners are working on it. But I reconfirm what I said in my introductory words. This is the moment, and Romania can show now why Romania now.
Ambassador Anka, to you the same question. It's all about trust, dialogue. Yes. In 2016-17, correct me if I'm wrong, you were finance minister. And then the political government changed at that time. But of course, then you worked in the private field. But of course, it's normal that you always have an overview about the last 5 years of political, economic happenings. What were for you the peak, the challenges in this last 5 years, and how can you say political wise now this is something that we want to improve for the next 4 years? So maybe you can think about the last 5 years and make a forecast about the next 4 years.
Yeah, thanks for reminding the period of 2016 when I was Minister of Finance, and it was a great event. That period of time, we had the visit of the German Finance Minister to Bucharest. He participated, Mr. Wolfgang Schäuble participated at investment forum in Bucharest, supporting and encouraging German investors to continue investing in the Romanian economy. It was a very strong message and a very strong commitment of German investors for Romanian towards Romanian economy. Over the last 4 years, we saw some very strange economic measures in 2017 and 18, measures that put on hold many investments. And of course, I'm talking here about the infamous already OG 114 and some other stumbling in economic measures that really affected the trust of investors. Also, we saw some macroeconomic imbalances accumulated during 2017 and 18. Romania ran too high budget deficits compared with its position during the economic cycle. And then, the pandemic came, and thanks God, we had a very responsible government during the pandemic that made possible a number of measures to be implemented immediately, so the economy to be protected. And as I said, finally, the economic figures for the first quarter of this year look even better than the forecast and better than we expected. What we should continue to do is to show this respect to investors, respect to real economy, to those people who are really contributing, creating value added, generating jobs. Because at the end of the day, we want to see a much higher standard of living for the Romanian population. And Mr. Ambassador correctly pointed out the progress over the last period of time and the good dialogue we are part of, and also the restart of the anti-corruption fight. So, and all these positive steps are already reflected in reports and in economic forecast. But also, as you know, we expect this year a good report on CVM, on the progress on the main problems signaled in the cooperation and verification mechanism. And here, of course, I'm first of all, I refer to anti-corruption fight. So I think we are in the moment that Romanian society modernized and needed a new, fresh, modern political elite. And I think here we are. We have a new parliament, a new government, and we have a very coherent governing program. And all this are creating the needed predictability, stability, and trust, which, by the way, are the values of AHK, yes? So we share the same values, and this is why we can go together on the same road of improving the Romanian economy.
Thank you very much. Very nice words. That we're sharing the same values, which is very important. Volker, I have also one question for you. We mentioned that Romania and Germany are very, very closely together. You mentioned the bilateral trade and investment, etc. So that means what is happening in Germany, economic-wise, will also affect also Romania and the Romanian economy. Give us a short glimpse, maybe, of the situation in the German economy. You are making surveys, very good surveys. Congratulations to this. And you are, through your AHK, your Chamber of Commerce system in Germany, every day in very, very close contact to the German companies. Your association has 3.6 million member companies in Germany, so sorry to say, nobody can feel the pulse of the economy better than you. So where we are in Germany? Up, down, stable?
Thank you, Sebastian, for that question. We are in an upswing, undoubtedly, but the upswing is characterized by a catching up process. What has been left last year is now compensated. We are not yet in a really sustainable upswing, I would say. The key word or the key topic of interest are private investments. And honestly, we are in a situation where we do have, or where businesses are confronted with so many crossroads. To what direction do they have to steer their business? And in all that crossroads, there are opportunities and there are threats. So one short-term problem is the restrictions in international mobility, which is really a burden for German companies right now because we are so internationalized. And COVID-19 has not been overcome yet. Especially when we think about our major trading partner, China. You are not allowed to travel frictionless, and not even with friction. You are not allowed to travel from China to Germany the other way around. And this really is an obstacle. It is a problem, or for those companies who have their channels of allocating their resources For them, they have managed so far that they have really dampened and overcome last year's shortcomings. But for new companies who think about investments, who think about where are the trade opportunities, where are the investment opportunities, for them it is really difficult. And the outlook in order to overcome COVID-19 crisis really so definitely are not bright, are more or less gloomy when we look into different regions. In Europe, the mobility is going on. So therefore, in against the backdrop of this development, I'm optimistic for new business relations in Europe, and especially when we think about Germany and Romania. So that's one thing. Another thing are crossroads, is the Green Deal, and are questions of where to invest now. Is the provision of energy, does it come from green hydrogen? Does it come from local produced electricity and renewables? What's about the digitization? There are so many opportunities and business activities potentially. But right now, in this moment, there's a bit of a high degree of uncertainty, especially when you think about we are facing, or businesses are facing a new federal government. There are the elections end of September, and the outcome is unclear. And to what direction is economic policy steering and focusing on? And so therefore, it's a mixed picture, but we are in an upswing. That's better than in a recession. It's the recovery of the economy, and we have to tackle the challenges.
Thank you very much, Volker, for this orientation that you gave us. I, from my side, can share with you that we got very positive business development from German companies and also from Romanian companies being member here in AHK. So the turnover is increasing. There's optimism here in Romania, in our community. So we are in a good phase here, actually, here in Romania. So I will look to my team whether Mr. Kitsu is already confirmed. So I would thank you for the welcoming remarks. Volker, Anka, Mr. Ambassador, thank you very much for joining us here. And I would like to welcome to this conference Mr. Prime Minister Kitsu. We will start now with the whole main conference panel, Romania Economic Outlook during and after the pandemics. And we will start this panel with a keynote speech from Prime Minister, and followed by a very interesting panel discussion with Deputy Prime Minister Dan Barna and high-profile representative from German and Romanian companies. Moderator is Robert Schwarz from at the Deutsche Welle. Mr. Prime Minister, it's an honor and pleasure to have you here with us today. We are looking forward to an intensive and fruitful collaboration and cooperation with your government. So let me just maybe pose 2-3 questions. What is your perspective on the German-Romanian business relation? How can we increase our cooperation in the near future? And what can we expect will happen economic-wise in Romania in order to adapt our business plans to what will happen in the future here in Romania? Thank you once again for joining. I know that also you are turning around in the country. So welcome at the television station here at AHK Romania. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much for inviting me. Yes, the relationship between Romania and Germany economically is a strong one. Obviously, it has to be much, much stronger.
Let's try to restart.
I think. Is this okay? Okay, can you start again?
Yep.
As I was saying, we have a good relationship, economic relationship, but it has to be much, much stronger from my point of view. And this is what this government is going to do in the future. We are going to change a lot of things to make Romania, well, not just more attractive for investment, but also we're going to be proactive in attracting investment in Romania. I think, you know, we've seen our strategy for this year and for the next years, increase gradually the amount that the government invests in the economy. We try to keep by the golden rule. If we borrow, it should be just for investment, not for unproductive expenditures. So those are two things that we're changing from previous governments. And we actually show that this is working. Investing has helped the Romanian economy get out of the last year's shock with few scars, not unscathed, but with few scars. But at the same time, with production capacity unchanged. Actually, we've seen in the first quarter this year, the net investment in the economy increasing. That shows that there's trust in this government from managers, from companies in Romania, that things will go as planned so far. The things I said a few things at the beginning of when I took over as Prime Minister of this coalition, and we'll stick with those. For example, I said we're not going to fiddle with taxes. We don't want to increase taxes. We don't want to introduce new taxes. This is something that we stand by because, you know, we think that there's other ways, non-inclusive ways that we can raise revenues, and we show that this year and last year also, but this year especially, that we can increase revenues without increasing taxes. It's just, you know, when government pays its bills on time, for example, when it's transparent, there's a reciprocity, and people pay their tax this year. So those are a few things that we've done. I think is there a problem with audio?
Problem with your internet connection, but maybe when you can turn off your, I mean, I like your video very much, but maybe we can reduce a little bit the capacity when you turn your video off. And
cheers. I'm sorry, but I cannot hear you very well.
Sorry.
So I'm just going to go on.
Yes.
And then, you know, I'll stop.
Yeah.
So the things that we, you know, going forward, we do have this massive opportunity for Romania. The 76 billion euro coming to Romania from two sources: the RRF, which is going to be approved in the fall by the European Commission, and the European funds. Both of those are two big sources of revenue for Romania, along with what they're going to spend for Romanian government, which is a minimum of 15 billion euros a year that will go into investment. So those are, you know, the strategy that we started at the beginning of the year. We continue. We don't want to change things during the play. We said we're going to be predictable. So all the decisions we take, we discuss first with the associations, representative associations of the business community. Every time we want to change something, but in terms of taxes and or new taxes, we stand firm by the decision not to introduce new ones. And you've seen that also in the RRF on the reform part, that we are going to increase, we're going to reduce deficit by increasing revenues, a non-inclusive way, a voluntary payment of taxes, and by controlling expenditures. Those are two things that have been approved already by the European Commission. The European Commission, in their recommendation for the EDP, has adopted our fiscal strategy, our path reducing deficit until 2024. So I think this is it adds to the credibility of this government. The same thing, you remember at the beginning of the year we had the S&P upgrading us on their perspective. I expect the other to do the same in the near future. I think it's going to happen in the next few months. So the things are going in the right direction in terms of where we're moving for the next period. We will stick to investment. I think that's the solution. We'll invest. Romania does need investment, which means opportunities for companies, even from Germany. This investment needs to be put into place by companies with experience, companies that have done this in other countries, companies that know how to do that fast and professional. So there's the opportunity, 76 billion euros coming to Romania from EU funds and 15 billion euro a year from government investment. I'll stop here right now, and if there's any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kitsu. You outlined
I can't hear you.
I hope that the connection right now is a little bit better. So there's a little bit problems on the transmission. I hope that you can hear me right now. You outline tax predictability. You outline the investment funds which are available for Romania. You said that we will see an investment growth strategy, like Anka Drago also mentioned this morning here in Romania. But let's make it a little bit more tangible. Which sectors and how would you like to absorb this money? Is there something where you can say these are key projects for us that we will realize? And can you a little bit more concrete information maybe for our company's representative here on the conference today?
Well, from my side, things are very clear, and I made that very transparent. Through the RRF, I intend to have few hospitals built by 2024. We've seen that the pandemic has shown that every health system in the world has been under pressure. Countries that we thought have developed systems, health systems, that have been also under pressure. There's no, Romania hasn't been built, a hospital hasn't been built in Romania in the last 30 years. We will build a few of them, modern ones, in the next few years through the RRF. So that's one thing. The other priority. The other priority is the infrastructure. Obviously, Romania is a laggard here. The last 30 years, there have been a lot of promises, but no delivery. We will deliver going forward. Infrastructure is the backbone of development. Having a modern infrastructure for our goods to be, shipped within Romania or outside Romania, just to create a better connectivity. It is key to development. So infrastructure, both railways and highways, it is a top priority, and it will be funded through the RRF. So those are two key things. The other issue that we have in the RRF is how we develop poorer local communities. you know, throughout the last two exercises in European funds have somehow left, you know, there's a lot of communities in Romania that have not been eligible for EU funds. We will do that in the next period. Some of those will be developed through RRF, some of them will be developed through government funds. They all have to do with infrastructure, again, developing the infrastructure, just modernizing all those areas. So Romania is going in the next 8 years through a big transformation. This money are coming into Romania, and then, you know, they will go directly in those areas that have been avoided by previous governments. Yes, it is a tough challenge. We'll make sure that every penny is accounted for. That's another promise I made publicly, but it will also deliver. It is important to deliver because this is an opportunity, once in a lifetime opportunity for Romanian economy to develop. Having, you know, I think if we add it up, we can talk about around 150 billion euros going into investment until 2028. That's why I keep talking about this government having an objective of 2 mandates. We want to start those projects and we want to end those projects in 2028. And this is the message I always take in the country, in Romania. You mentioned that I'm now traveling. Yes, I'm traveling because I want to see, and I'm going a lot in poor areas, areas that have been avoided by investment. Actually, let's make that clearer. They've not been avoided by investment. You know, money has been directed to those areas, but they never have gone into infrastructure or into developing the communities. Those money have ended up in the wrong hands, and we want to make sure that this doesn't happen anymore in the future.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Mr. Kitsu. I think we still have 5 more minutes of your time before starting with our panel discussion. I would like to ask you 2 more things. 2 things which are also very important for our AHK community. One thing is education. You know that the German model of dual professional education is one hard project also for the German-Romanian business community here in Romania. And what we need here is a little bit faster development in building up a sustainable education system here in Romania regarding professional dual education. So please consider also, how do you consider actually in your future plannings to upgrade education, the level of education here in Romania, on the level of the blue collar, on the level of the skilled workers, but also, and this is what we will also definitely talk in our panel on production and R&D, how do you consider the upgrade of university research, because we need this as a basis to realize our more R&D projects here in Romania. So education is the non plus ultra, I would say. It's very, very important. And how do you consider this in your future policies?
Thank you. So on education, I think education and health, those are the priorities also for the government. For education, we have Educated Romania, which is the program started by the President of Romania. There's 3.6 billion euros dedicated to this program in the RRF. So there, it's very clear. But back to your 2 questions, I think there's one thing that I believe firmly. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. So when it comes to professional education for skills, we already have in Romania best practices. We have companies, some of them are German companies, that have already set up systems, with high schools that are close to them, where they prepare people for their own company or for anyone else who needs the skills. So I think what we need to do is to take that practice and actually extend it throughout Romania. We'll see how is it going to be funded, but I don't want to do something different. that works. You know, we've had those experiences. I've seen that in Maramureș, in Satu Mare, in Brașov. I've seen, you know, in Timișoara. There's all these places where companies have already didn't wait for the government. They actually did their own thing. It just, you know, which is great, because now we can take that experience and, you know, extend it to throughout the country. So there, I'm not concerned. We just have to set up the system for everybody. We have the best practice already. It's a system imported from Germany. You're right, and it's something that works also in Romania. In terms of research, I think there's a lot of work to do. Personally, I see research centers around universities, near universities. This is the system that I prefer. Also, what I prefer is that research centers compete for funds. I'm a firm believer that only through competition from funds you can actually develop something to research. The way it is done right now, that, you know, every institute receives just money from the government without any, you know, anything back, asking for anything back. I think it's a flawed system. We should, you know, should make sure that the money that are invested, or the money that they go to research, they actually produce something. So far, I've seen, you know, if you look throughout the world, the systems that work best are where research centers are connected to universities. And we do have good universities in Romania, and I think, you know, this is one of the priorities. And the other one is to make sure that money, there's a competition for those funds, competition between research centers. You know, only competition brings out the best. Otherwise, we'll just have, you know, pour money into research center without having any results. And I think, you know, that's something that not just Romania is learning, but I think throughout Europe we're learning that, you know, research has to be funded, but on the other side it has to be something tangible, and those research centers have to compete for funds.
Okay, thank you very much. Definitely we will talk with experts also in our workshops. One last question regarding the Green Deal, green sustainable transformation of the industry. We right now in our business community, we are talking about rising raw material, rising prices, scarcity, non-availability of raw materials or of components, but rising prices, for example, in the energy area. So Green Deal is a mega topic which will affect all the industries here, all the sectors, the whole economy here in Romania. What is your vision regarding the green transformation here in Romania? How will you overcome the challenges made by the Green Deal? There is no question we will support it and we will go through this all together, but we need to work on these challenges. So my question to you is, how is your vision to overcome these challenges?
Yes, this is another challenge, and let me just say from the get-go, Romania fully supports the Green Deal. We are, you know, on board for this objective. This is something that we stand by. However, Romania starts, like few other countries, from a different starting point. And, you know, for us, the speed of implementing the Green Deal objectives come with a social cost. Of course, there's support from EU funds, and then we have to make sure that those supports get in time. But also, we'll make sure that the areas where Romania will have, you know, some social costs are developed faster. These areas are priorities for investors in Romania. I'm looking already at some of such opportunities. We don't want to have to, you know, leave anyone behind because of this objective. So this is important to us. But it is the only way going forward. We know there's an issue globally. Everybody acknowledges it. We all have to do our part. It's just that I think that Romania and a few other countries will have a different speed of achieving that goal. We can, you know, speed it up if there's support from Europe, from other countries in Europe on the short term for this transition. So there's no doubt in my mind that we will stand by this goal. I think that, you know, one comment I made here, and I made when I was the Minister of Finance last year, that we have to be careful when you use fiscal policy to achieve this goal. Fiscal policy might be too blunt of a tool to use here. I think there's other, I would rather work through incentives than through coercion. That's just my personal opinion. But of course, I'm sure we'll discuss this in the future.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kitso. One last wish, actually, one last request from our community is regarding Kurzarbeit. You successfully implemented the Kurzarbeiter scheme in the period of state of alert here in Romania. It is widely used, and it's definitely also a success model in Germany to overcome crises. So our request from our side is to continue with the Kurzarbeit scheme also after the state of alert. I know also that, of course, this has a budget influence, but I use the opportunity today to explicitly say this request to you. We would be very glad if we could implement on a long-term perspective the Kurzarbeit scheme here in Romania. Thank you very much, Mr. Prime Minister. Some last words?
Let me just confirm.
Please.
Let me just confirm to you that Kurzarbeit is here to stay. We have improved it in the last month. Let's see how this new version goes forward. If it needs to be improved, we'll improve it further. But it stays here after the state of alert. No problem.
The best wherever you are in Romania, and hope to see you soon again. With this,
Thank you.
Thank you. With this, I would like to hand over to Robert Schwarz, who is the moderator of the next panel. Robert, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you very much, Sebastian. Thank you, Prime Minister, for being with us in this very interesting bilateral conference. It is a great pleasure to listen to you. And let me briefly introduce our panelists. Welcome to Mr. Vice Prime Minister Dan Barna. Welcome to Mr. Markus Eisenhut, President of the Industrial Europe Schaeffler Technologies AG. Dr. Christian Bruch, President and CEO of Siemens Energy and spokesman for the Energy and Sustainability Working Group in the German Eastern Business Association. Mr. Vaga Moed, Chief Strategy Officer, UiPath, the Romanian unicorn, as we keep saying. And last but not least, welcome to Mr. Andreas Lier from BASF Romania, Managing Director and the new President of AHK. Let me just briefly thank also Mr. Dragoș Anastasiou, the former President of AHK, because we had a very good cooperation for the last years. And so greetings to the former AHK President. So Mr. Andreas Lier, nice to have you here. It's the first conference we are doing together. And maybe it is important to have some elements of your ideas of your speech, because how do you see, as the new president of AHK, the economic development in Romania? Where is the German business in this German-Romanian relationships? Because we always listen to politicians, to the ambassadors of the two countries, and all of them are speaking about excellent relationship. But are there any elements you want to stress out?
Yeah, so many thanks, Mr. Schwarz, for this question. And first of all, Bună dimineața, good morning, bine ați venit. And on behalf of AHK and all participants, we are very grateful for the inspiring welcome speeches and keynote from Prime Minister Kitso. And of course, we are also today very happy and grateful to welcome Deputy Prime Minister Mr. Barna in our panels. So it's a great honor for us. Many thanks for this possibility. Yeah, let us come back to your question. The economy is running well. There's a strong recovery, what we see this year in all major sectors. And of course, some parts of the economy have still some negative effects. That's of course clear from the pandemic. Sustainability and Green Deal are taking over the agenda setting. That's something what we see. And we also see that complete new opportunities and challenges with this. And talking to our customers, we see it also now more and more. And our car members, they incorporate this topic in their agendas and strategies. So that's something what's gaining speed. So it's in fact a central challenge, an opportunity, and a transition to a sustainable future. So let's come shortly to the economy. So for me, I'm here now 2 years in Romania as CEO, Managing Director of BASF, and now also an honor to be the AHK President. So our recent AHK survey has shown a significant part of companies expect to come back to the pre-corona level this year. And I personally guess when talking to our customers from my company and AHK members, that the recovery will be even stronger. There is and will be significant growth, and companies are also starting now to hire new workforce. So this also means then that the problem of tight labor in Romania might come more in the center of focus again. It might create a bit limitation of the growth phase, but all in all, we are very optimistic for the local market and for the export markets. And there's a lot of energy indeed in the business community, as Sebastian already said. Yeah, last year, the companies maneuvered through the challenging year 2020. So many companies experienced significant sales decreases, but what was good and important and stated also already here, there were good collaboration with the government, and we implemented the Kurzarbeit based on the German model. And I was very happy to hear that the government today morning said, Mr. Prime Minister, that said, we will continue with this. It's a very important model for Romania in case there will be something situations like this. Yeah, looking to our bilateral economic relations, that was also something, of course, what I looked at the very beginning here. Germany is Romania's most important trading partner with 30 billion euro trading volume and first in place of terms of foreign direct investments. That was due to a new analysis of Romanian National Bank. And we should not forget, Mr. Schwarz, that we have here more than 7,000 German companies active in Romania, employing more than 250,000 people. So that's significant. And let me also say a few words for those who still hesitate to invest. Give me some arguments why this is a good location now and in future. There is a strong industrial fundament and excellent people. So I'm here now since 2 years, and I'm very happy, and it's a big honor for me and my company to enjoy this. It's the largest market in Southeast Europe, and there's a middle class growing up with purchasing power and many skilled worker and specialists.
Thank you, Mr. Andreas Lier. Thank you very much. We will come back to all these elements, but as far as I know, Mr. Dan Barna has to leave at 11:45. And as we can see, he is in Hermannstadt in Sibiu. We see, yes, in my Hermann und Heimatstadt, yes.
Oh, very nice.
Yes. Well, you showed just the street where I was born. Thank you. So, Deputy Prime Minister, we listened to Prime Minister Florin Câțu, and he said after 30 years of transformation, we will have 8 more years of transformation. But he also said, we will deliver. He said it twice. So how would you deliver? And what would you deliver, Mr. Deputy Prime Minister?
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. It's an honor and a pleasure for me to be again in one of AHK events, because it was always a pleasure to have this discussion about Romanian future. And of course, I'm fully agree with the Prime Minister, as I'm supposed to be. And we are saying this because Romania, and this is the most important line our government is promoting, this Romanian government is an open for business one, for real. not just pretending, not just stating in the conferences. This is a reality, and this is the strategy the Prime Minister and our ministers in these coalitions are working a lot. Considering the international context of the COVID-19 pandemic, we strongly believe that what is supposed to come is a strong opportunity for the development of the Romanian economy, because, and I'm sure the members of AHK, which are very experienced businessmen, noticed the economy after pandemia will be significantly changed than the old one. And this recovery and resilience plan that Romania is going to benefit, as the rest of Europe, but of course we are now talking about Romania, we consider it is a great opportunity, because new areas of economy will be developed, and they will be necessary for Romania to be developed, new ones. Because I follow the figures related with the foreign direct investment between Germany and Romania, and 30% in greenfield and 29% in already existing company are those related with the industrial production. So it is a fact that Germany is the most important industrial partner for Romania. And of course, Germany is in top 3 for all the investment, but on industrial production, you are our natural and most relevant partner. Green Deal means, because it was mentioned before, Green Deal means that Romania will need to use those development money from recovery plan to create new areas of industry related with green energy, smart cities, where Germany has a significant experience. So all this experience, all this know-how is necessary to be transferred in Romania for our municipalities. And for most of them, the German companies and the German municipalities are and should be the natural partner. So this is one of the ways, because of course we have those 6 pillars in our recovery program: green transition, digital transformation, sustainable growth with reform, social cohesion, health, and education. But all of them translated in real projects, in on-the-field projects, means know-how on digitalization, where Romania has a good experience. The green companies and green energy, and as I said, smart cities related with all these social services and public services which are necessary to be developed through green perspective. And there Germany had an opportunity, and I'm sure AHK will act in this direction. This we consider is the opportunity for the next 5 and 10 years. And I think in this area, this partnership and AHK and all the already existing relations could be developed. So this is the most relevant idea in this discussion I'm putting on the table. If there are questions, I'm ready to answer.
Yes, that's very good. Thank you very much, Dan Barna. I would change a little bit our setting. And if you have questions for the Deputy Prime Minister, because he's leaving at 11:45, so just shoot your questions, and we are talking after Dan Barna leaves this panel about our priorities. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, so from many thanks, Mr. Barna, for this information, for this update on the situation. So from our side, of course, the question is how to make the transition a success story, that the old traditional industries will move into the future with green energy. Can we power the industrial sector with green energy? How and when we can make this?
So I didn't hear the last part of the question. Please.
So to power the industrial sector with green energy is of course a great opportunity for the future. But how to make this transition? That the traditional sector here in Romania will go into the future. So there's a framework maybe necessary for this political framework.
Yeah, does exist a discussion in our government exactly related with this transition and the calendar of this transition? Because exactly like in the railway and motorways infrastructures, Romania has a significant delay. So even in the energy, we are still in this period when it's not possible for social reason and also technological reason to jump directly to the pure green energy, as is the case also in the rest of the European countries. And we intend to have a period of 3 to 5, 6 years for these energetic transitions. But what recovery program intended is to create, how should I put it, islands and projects, model projects, best practices of implementing good energy models. Because as everywhere in the world, the mimetism mechanism is working. If you see the other company is implementing something and is working, you are more eager and more open to do like that. So we need few projects, and this is the opportunity I was talking about. We need a number of projects using and stepping ahead than the rest and the medium of the whole industry. Because that's the way of using good examples and best practices to push ahead this direction.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan Barna. If there are more questions from our panelists.
Yes, I'll try.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for having me. I guess I'll speak about something that has not been spoken about that is dear to our hearts, given the type of company we are, which is the digitization of the Romanian economy. Mr. Vice Prime Minister has said that there are skills in Romania, and indeed they are. And I think we're the witness of these skills and the benefits of many years of, I would say, proper fiscal policy towards the sector from the Romanian government that is paying out dividends. And so my question to Mr. Barna is, when are we going to finally see the benefit of this digital talent in Romania for the Romanian citizens and the digitization of the public service? According to our survey, 90% of Romanians are crying for it, expecting it. 88% of Romanians use the internet on a daily basis. So are we finally going to see the government move on this subject and harness the talent that exists in Romania to perhaps even leapfrog some of the European countries?
Yeah, this is a very good question, because in Romania there is a funny or strange paradox. On the private sector, Romania is, I dare to say, is one of the most relevant player in the industry, with significant companies, with good experience, with services delivered everywhere, literally everywhere in the world, on the private sector. In the public sector, we are years behind. So it's the most priority for this government and for this recovery program is exactly this one. And it is digitalization. It is a critical priority for the public sector, because in this moment it was a period not very good. Let's be nice, for Romania the last years, where the strategy was wrong in the words that each public institutions tried harder or less tried to develop his own IT environment. They bought their own servers, their own softs, and it is in this moment there is sort of unfunctional public sector on the digitalization, because this soft doesn't communicate each other. So the need of the governmental cloud, where all the institutions could connect, that's the main issue of the digitalization pillar in the recovery program of Romania. So in terms of digitalization, the critical issue is exactly this one: to be able, and that's the challenge of our government, to be able to create this governmental cloud where all the institutions to have access to data, to connect their data, in order to reduce the significant bureaucracy which is still existing in the relation with the Romanian authorities. And also the German companies complain a lot, fairly, being about the files with the thousands of pages necessary to get an approval or to get a document. So we are trying to get rid of this bureaucracy, creating this governmental cloud, and this will be for the next 2 or 3 years the main challenge in the digitalization area.
Okay, thank you so much. So you would deliver, even if we talk about digitization.
We have to. We don't have alternative.
If there are more questions from our panelists for the Deputy Prime Minister, please shoot. If not, oh yeah, Mr. Bruch.
Yeah, maybe if you allow, Christian Bruch from Siemens Energy, the Deputy Prime Minister, just maybe comment, because we discussed energy and sustainability of energy before. And obviously that is something very close to my heart, because we are tackling exactly the elements about generation, transmission, and of energy, but also how we can improve the efficiency of processes, because also we need to shrink energy demand in the processes where we apply energy today. One comment, because I think you're facing as Romania a significant challenge of really turning around the energy system, making the infrastructure stable, and also phasing out coal, which is obviously an important element. Our view always is we need to go through this coal to gas shift first. We cannot always, as much as we drive for sustainability and we must get CO2 down, we have to make sure that it's also obviously in the respective country systems works out and in the regions. There is not one single answer to energy transformation. And I like the discussions about green hydrogen, but at the same time, we have to be aware that we do need electricity first before we produce green hydrogen. And in the situation of Romania, I do believe, and I think your government is pushing this, we need a very balanced view also towards Brussels and the European Union in terms of explaining there's certain steps required, because there's also, as I think the Prime Minister also indicated, a social component to it of really transforming the system. And I think it's absolutely important that this is also on the European level made very clear that energy transformation in Romania is really having different steps. The one thing is pushing renewables, and I think we do need also clear regulatory bounding conditions for this. But there's also a coal to gas shift. Even so, this is a transitional solution, but it's definitely required. And there is obviously also a lot about infrastructure and grid infrastructures. I would encourage always you, Mr. Deputy Prime Minister, to have this strong voice also in Brussels and in the discussions, particularly also on the recovery fund, because I think it's important that this is heard, that the pictures on energy transformation are diverse. We sometimes tend to discuss it too simplistic, and I think your country has the opportunity to really bring a balanced view also into Brussels. So it's a wish from my side to you to support this, because to make a successful energy transformation, availability, sustainability, and affordability go together. Nothing goes alone.
Thank you, Mr. Bruch, for your comment and for your wish. And now, Mr. Eisenhut, for the next, I think, 3 or 4 minutes.
And from Schaeffler perspective, I can absolutely support that, because looking into Schaeffler, we have now more than 5,000 employees, and we have the world's largest factory of wind bearing manufacturing in Romania, but we have little installation of wind inside the Romanian economy. So I think that that's an important step, and I can fully support Mr. Bruch on the predictability of change, and the cost of change needs to be really managed. We are putting ourselves into a position where we are getting then into a discussion in regards to wind energy to China or into India, rather than making that in Brasov. That's certainly not where I want to be in a longer term situation. So a very valid point. But what we are struggling, and when I'm looking to the situation, we talked about education, the further support of the dual education system. We started 2012 in Brasov with around 100 participants. We have now 800, but we have reached a stagnation point, and mainly also because of the availability of people in the area where we are dealing in. Further support of the political side on putting people in those education systems, hosting them in an area where they are not born in, not raised in, is certainly a key topic what we are discussing currently. There's a continuous shortage of labor quality labor and engineers in the area. So I would highly appreciate if we are seeing there more effort on getting those educational capabilities and capacities increased.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Barna, if you want to give an answer to these comments, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. The Green Deal, it is a big deal. And I'm saying this because I'm sure that a part of the official conferences, everybody's discussing if the Europe is there, maybe the program is daring too much for the moment. I know there are significant fights in Brussels related with the calendar. Romania is exactly in this situation because we need a natural transition and energy transformations process. This is clear. Indeed, we need energy, electricity first. It's normal, but we need gas infrastructure in the rural area in this moment because traveling in the country, the most frequent and the strongest expectations of the rural Romanian citizens are related with the gas infrastructure. So there is an important issue. The calendar, it's critical and is relevant. So it will not be possible for Romania to use hydrogen technology in few years. This is clear. And for the next 5 or 10 years at least, this transition means to take into considerations the expectations and the need of the citizens. And this is a reality. We can say anything in the conferences, but the reality is that there is a certain speed which cannot be increased just because we are adopting a law or another. So this is one element. The other element is that, I shouldn't say old, the traditional technologies are not mutually exclusive with the green ones. So this was the reason of the idea I mentioned before related with let's create some best practices, let's create some good projects. And in the resilience program, we do propose to have an approach related with the hydrogen technology just in a small region to see how we succeed to fit it in the system. So if will be to identify the critical problems and then to go further in an intelligent managerial way, which is quite normal. Related with the second interventions, the education is, and the biggest part of program is related with education. This is a good thing because in the last years it was always the last 30 years, unfortunately. It was always mentioned, of course, the education is the priority, but was never put significant money. Now we changed this. So when we are talking about education, we are talking about exactly the necessity to come back as a real priority to the professional educations. Because, of course, Romania is very good in winning gold medals in Olympics for bright students, which are few. And is nice, and we are proud. But for the main industry, for the companies, generally speaking, there is a lack of professionals, of young trained professionals. I was yesterday with the Minister of Transport, Cătălin Drulă, in Aerostar Bacău, which is a company, a good company with plus on fiscal data, and they were complaining that many of their engineers in aeronautics equipment and products are very old because they have problems to identify new educated engineers in this area. So the professional education, it is a priority because if we dream to be relevant as a country, as a European country with industrial production, and as I said, Germany is the natural partner on this area, we need to have fuel, to have gas in terms of young generations trained and educated to work to this new equipment, new machines, everything which is changed in this period. So these are the line we are focusing in this period and in this program, which is a huge opportunity for Romania.
Thank you, Deputy Prime Minister Dan Barna. Best wishes to Sibiu. Have a nice time there. And Andreas Lier, Listening to the...
I'll have to leave because I have another meeting waiting.
Yes, of course. So thank you very much and have a good time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Andreas Lier, listening to our politicians there in Bucharest or in Sibiu or wherever they are in Romania, we are hearing very interesting messages for foreign investors, not only for the German investors, but where do you see the future potentials for AHK and for the German investors? We talk about getting out of the Corona shock. We talk about the reforms and about need of reforms. We talk about delivering. Besides, I mean, where is the future? What do you see? Where is the future potential for you, for the AHK, and for German investors?
Many thanks, Mr. Schwarz, for this question there. As said, the potentials are significant here in Romania, but we have also to be frank. Growth could have been stronger in the past. If it could have been stronger if reforms and the infrastructure investments would have been done. So this is past. So let's talk about a bit the future. It's now to do it better. And what I heard from business partners, customers, and also from the members from the AHK, there is basically no better time than now. As discussed here also in this round, the playing field is now changing significantly and will further change. We heard it also from the Deputy Prime Minister, from Mr. Bruch. We see now also different paradigm shifts from a linear economy towards circular economy, and also new forms of energy. So there's a lot need for sustainable innovations. And this is a great opportunity here, a unique chance for Romania, because this offers a lot of potentials to gain also competitive advantage here in future. So it's a great chance to catch up. We heard about the potentials a bit, renewable energy, green energy, digitalization, and we should not forget that Romania is one of the fastest growing IT markets here in the world, actually. In Europe, it's ranked 6th in the world related to IT, certified IT specialists. There's a lot in. This is in different areas for the industry, for the public sector. There's a lot to do with digitalization. Let's come to a complete other area, agriculture, food value chain, downstream development, agriculture. As I understood, Romania is still a net importer of meat. So basically meat is produced in Germany and imported here. So there should be also downstream development into this direction. Infrastructure and of course, transportation, logistic hub is important. But let me, Mr. Schwarz, also once again highlight on one important topic. Long time Romania was seen as a verlängerte Werkbank, but it's much more now. It's about innovation hubs, it's about R&D. And if one goes to Timișoara, to Cluj, to Iași or other cities, we see now the investments are happening into this direction. So there's a lot in for this. And there's one more interesting element, a bit created maybe with the pandemic. It's about nearshoring, reshoring activities. So there's also something in. Important is now that the significant recovery resilience funds will be target-oriented, used for innovations, foster innovations and modernization. And with this, I would say there's a great opportunity for Romania, but the frame and political support is important, and we should, and this I have really to underline, we should and must pull in one direction here in Romania all together.
Thank you very much. I'm coming back to Varga Moyed. Do you agree with this message? We should go in one direction, all of us. Or do you have maybe some other point of view?
Nobody can disagree with such a sentence that we should go in one direction.
Which is the direction, I mean?
But I would like to add one more positive things to, in that it's probably not on the radar screen of you gentlemen, because you are working with much larger corporation with an industrial base. There is something else. There is these green shoots that are coming into Romania that I truly believe you will see the impact of 5 years, 10 years down the road. Entrepreneurship and tech entrepreneurship in Romania is at the tipping point. We Bitdefender before us, we have kind of been spearheading this movement. And what I have seen lately in a remarkable way is how much more ambitious the Romanian tech entrepreneurs are now. And they no longer want to just build something in Romania to sell it to a foreign company, but they truly believe that they have a shot at becoming pan-European or even global players. And there is also no better proof than the amount of VC funding and startup funding that we see money coming into Romania. So my other message is also to say, indeed, Romania, it is becoming there's a second wave. There were a lot of IT jobs that were created in Romania as outsourcing or nearshoring, but these people have learned skills, and some of them have this entrepreneurial spirit. They are going to, and they are currently creating probably a few of the companies of the future for this country, and providing a different perspective on what Romania can be and will be. So I want also to say to German companies and others, also you can and should invest in Romania for purely the hope of building truly innovative companies. The ecosystem is there, the mindset of the entrepreneurs has changed, and the money for these new ventures in Romania is now available. So it was just, I guess, one more positive things to say. Albeit it's very small today, it doesn't register on your radar screen in terms of sheer numbers, but these are early signs of a significant, I'm convinced of a significant trend for Romania.
Thank you for your optimism. And let me go to Mr. Eisenhut. Germany's cooperation with several countries in Central and Eastern Europe, and with Romania, indeed, has been a modern success story. But what would you do now in these next 8 years of new reforms? What are your priorities as we talk about modernizing on one hand, but as we talk about sharing common values on the other hand? So please, I'm very interested in your comment.
Sharing common values. I don't think that we, between Romania and Germany, really have an issue there. When I'm looking, we have started more than 15 years ago in Romania. We have now more than 5,000 people in Brașov, and looking, there are so many commonalities between mainly the German culture and work attitudes, what we are basically seeing very much reflected in the population. But I'm much more struggling with how we are attracting young talent and getting them into jobs which are not university driven and not going to a big city like Bucharest. I think that's a real challenge here. Also, we are having continuously 300-400 jobs open, which are very hard to fill. And I think that will be, besides the sustainability efforts and the energy costs, which overall is also more and more impacting Romania, it's still far better than Germany. But I exactly see the same trend. And I listened to Mr. Bruch in the discussion in regards to the European community push. I think we all need to take a look into that. And that's not purely Romania, but it is an overall situation. And it's when you're looking into the Schaeffler environment, we have started our basically large size bearing manufacturing in Germany. It's now in the majority in Brașov, but the discussion and also the installation goes more and more into Asia Pacific, India, China, and certainly the footprint also then needs to move there. And if we are not all staying competitive, then we are getting into a real issue on keeping large-scale sites. And for industry, for Schaeffler industry, Brașov is our largest manufacturing footprint site inside Europe, and it's still bigger than what we have in China and in India. So from my perspective, that's the core point. And the second point, from cultural perspective, interesting, when you're looking not to manufacturing, when you're looking to engineering, we have a way to go to get educated engineers, which are on the cultural level, also on collaboration, on a better sharing situation. We are continuously seeing that the community what we have there is growing. We have now 11% of the total population engineers, but to attract young, number one, and number second, to have them well educated and also well in the sharing capabilities and working together in teamwork. There are two things where we are still working on to improve.
Well, thank you very much. Mr. Christian Bruch, the commitment has to be stronger, said the Prime Minister, the commitment of the politicians, but I think the commitment of the investors could be stronger, or am I wrong?
No, I don't know. I think we have here also a panel with companies which have actually good examples. I mean, as you just heard from Mr. Eisenhut, we are considering at the moment also to, let's say, increase our activities and invest into Romania. But there's also, if you do this, you do it for the long term. We're all not coming for 3, 4, 5 years. We're coming to stay. And in this regard, long-term predictability, a clear path on workforce availability, but also a clear path in our case, always around regulations, is super, super important. And that is the base for decision making. If we are investing, we need to have a long-term plan. And this is why I think the elements around a long-term plan, around how do you supply electricity to industry? How do you make sure that workforce is available? How do you make sure that you remain competitive in the global environment is important? Because one thing, if I take my industry as an example, the energy industry, one thing we should not underestimate, we are talking about very much about renewables. Obviously, we also serve the conventional with gas power, but the renewable sector is a sector which demands more than other technologies localization. So if you do projects in Asia or you do projects in the US, it will be very difficult to do this. And this is also what, companies like Mr. Eisenhut see, you will get the request to localize fabrication because it's also possible. Some of the elements are less complex. If you put together a solar plant or a wind plant, it's high technology, but fabricating it is possible to localize it. So if you want still to remain competitive in Europe, we have to have very strategic long-term plans. And it's not just about 1, 2, 3 companies saying, hey, yes, we are investing. I'm absolutely happy to, let's say, really push our plans, but we need from the boundary conditions as discussed, regulations, workforce, competitiveness of the location, very long-term strategic plans. Otherwise, and this is not only applying to Romania, I think this applies for Europe in general, we will not succeed in the global competition. And this is something where I think this discussion as we have today, also in close collaboration between government and companies, is awfully important. And what AHK or Ostausschuss or whatever are doing is awfully important because we are at the crossroads of a lot of industries. And we're also in a crossroads on the globalization approach. And we have to recognize it is not just to say how many companies are moving somewhere. It's how do you manage supply chains globally and what are the boundary conditions? And this is something where every government, but also every company has to be very clear on a long-term plan. So I think the commitment is there from the companies, also from us as a company. But I'm not seeing always is do we have on a European and maybe on a country level clear enough the picture, how do the next 10 years going to look like?
Thank you very much. And coming back to Mr. Andreas Lier, as a kind of a conclusion, maybe a first conclusion, why invest in Romania?
Why invest in Romania? It's a fantastic place for investment. There are great skilled people, a strong industrial basis, basically, a good possibility for the future with a Green Deal to enable also the industry to work with green energy, with hydrogen. So if you're looking now to the Danube Delta, for example, there are a lot of wind parks working, hydrogen can be produced here in future. So from the energy side, there's a significant, excellent potential. People, that is another very strong argument. And of course, the location. We see this now more and more. Transportation, logistic hub is Romania already. This is developing in this direction. So there's a lot in for Romania in the future. Yeah, as said already, the EU Green Deal is a great opportunity, but this also requires a whole way of new working together. And Mr. Bruch said this, between politics, industry, and society, along here with the right instrument and the path. And I have the feeling that Romania can receive here really an advantage globally when we do this right. So there's an engagement of all stakeholders is now necessary, a new way of working together. Now with the significant resilience and recovery funds, they are significant here in Romania. Grants and loans, we are talking about almost 30 billion. So this is also an opportunity we should not forget to engage here. The public and private sector opens up a lot of potentials. And I've also then with this a feeling that people, we see this already, want to stay then here in Romania, and the problem of lack of workforce can with this be also solved when we are setting up here tangible investments. The German chamber is of course fully ready here to support in this direction, together with all stakeholders, with the government, work in this direction and pull in the right direction. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. But we always hear that for all the investors, not only for the German investors, the important elements in a country are stability, predictability, and trust. Now we listen to the president of the Romanian Senate, Anca Dragu, and she said Romanian society needs new, fresh, modern political elite. We have new, fresh, modern politicians now in Bucharest. Do we have now more stability, predictability, and trust?
Yeah, basically many reform efforts got the trust and credit from the business, and the government in the past provided many optimistic messages. Yes, we are waiting on tangible reforms. It's time to act. It's a unique chance now for Romania to tackle the challenges and opportunities, to catch up here to the traditional Western European markets. So that's really a chance, but reforms need to be done and quick. And it should be really in one direction. We need to gain speed, and we are ready here to support.
Thank you, Mr. Eisenhut. Is there any possibility German investors could assist the Romanian government in doing these reforms? Because your experience in Central and Eastern Europe is huge. So could you bring in from your experience the best practice maybe from other countries just to support the Romanian government in doing these reforms, not in 8 years, but maybe in 4 years?
Not sure if you can really do those things so much faster. I would love to see that. But basically, when I'm looking, we have a huge footprint in Slovakia for more than 30 years. We just have in Skalica 30-year anniversary now in September. We have Hungary, another big footprint, and worked very closely here with the government together and really supported each other on getting those sites developed. Certainly, when I'm looking from the Scheffler perspective, I would highly feel encouraged to get that done if the politicians are willing to get into those discussions, and we even would be able not only to do that via what we already have done in the Brasov area, although by combining the 3 big installations in Eastern Europe we have, and the pluses and minuses, what we have learned, what works, what doesn't work. I'm happy to do so if there's an opportunity, and certainly we are inviting for a group into Brasov any time when there is an opportunity.
Yeah. Mr. Bruch, maybe you could comment a little bit this.
No, I mean, we are more than happy to do this, and we are doing it also. I mean, we are obviously also happy to support in terms of bringing together an overall plan also on what we believe needs to be done on the energy infrastructure and what is possible, because it's much more about generation, and in Romania is also a lot about the transmission side. How do we keep a grid stable once you have a feed-in of renewables coming, and how do we balance it in over the country? And we are starting these discussions. We are happy to continue this in terms of bringing in our views on what needs to be done and what are the boundary conditions. Because at the end, we also have to see one thing. We're seeing this fantastic stimulus program coming and the Green Deal, and we are very happy with the funds which come to Romania. But at the end, we need to attract private investments into business models. And these have to work out. And I think this is where we are more than happy really also to support, together with our Romanian partners, really to flag up what we believe needs to be done to have this linkage between stimulus package on the one side, but then also getting into commercial business models which support the transformation of the energy infrastructure and provide the stability of energy supply sustainably to the customers.
Thank you. And now, Mr. Varga-Moye, UiPath is a Romanian unicorn. Everybody speaks about UiPath, and well, how easy is it for you to implement your business in Romania? Because on the international level, you are well known, but is it the same in Romania, or do you have to work hard to implement UiPath in Romania too?
I think it was mentioned before by the Deputy Vice Prime Minister. We have no issues with the private sector in Romania. Romania commercially for us is not an important market, I mean, percentage-wise. But where we're working a lot and trying to change things, not really, I would say, commercially for us, but really as a sense of giving back and thing is indeed to convince the public sector in Romania to embrace digitization and our technology. Mm-hmm. So we are at the back door, like many of us, helping the Romanian government push in the right direction. We're able to help them put some clear plan on digitization with the European Union and to show the importance of it and get the funds for it. So our hope is mainly with the public sector. From a commercial standpoint, we're already privileged by the fiscal policies towards the tech sector, and Romania remains our number one R&D center globally. So we have more than 1,000 people on very high-paying jobs and very tech jobs here in Romania. We suffer a bit for the lack of talent, the tightness of the market, like many of the panelists have mentioned. And we're also hoping that Romania could learn from the Irish model, not only be a country where people live to somewhere else, which, this is the free movement and Romania is part of the EU, but hopefully also provide special visas from people from somewhere else that wish to come to Romania. And I'm specifically thinking about Ukraine, Belarus, which are talent pools and people who are the door of Europe, for which Romania will be an excellent entry point. Mm-hmm. And for whom Romania is attractive, particularly in our sector, in the digital sector. So Romania can also think itself not only as quote unquote always the victim of immigration, mm-hmm. but it could be a place where, believe it or not, can be attractive for populations at the border, at the eastern flank of Europe. I think Poland has already shown the way a little bit in this direction. And I think this is also something that should be supported at the European Union level, because increased talent to the European Union with aging population across Europe is something that we should really consider. And I think Romania could be at the forefront of this movement, given its localization.
Thank you so much for this idea about migration, because it would be my next question for Mr. Andreas Lier. We are talking about coming to Romania from Germany to invest more, but is there enough labor force? Because the migration of labor force is obviously one of the hugest problems in Romania. There are, I think, 4 or 5 million Romanians working in Western Europe, in Italy, in Spain, in Germany. There are people from Ukraine, from Moldova, but even from India, Bangladesh, and Sri Lanka, and even from China, from Vietnam, working in Romania. How could you manage this problem of migration, not in that sense to stop migration, because as we all know, the free market and free movement of labor force is maybe the best thing it could happen to countries like Romania. But how would you consider to make Romania attractive for labor force from other countries?
So what we experienced during the Corona time, that hundreds of thousands of people were coming back here to Romania. So it looks like that some stay here now. And there are, of course, different elements now. Of course, investment, attractive job offers here in the country. So if companies are investing, that is one element. Another element is, of course, that the public sector, the health sector is improving, that the local population has trust and feels well here treated in different areas. So this is something the government and all stakeholders have to work on. And yeah, of course, we have also to ensure, for example, with the dual education, what Germany started here, what German companies started here very early. There's also a great opportunity given to bind, to create some binding between companies and young people, young talents. So if you are doing this right and further supported, I see a good opportunities to keep talents, to avoid the talents and people are leaving the country, and hopefully that also people and talents are coming back to Romania. It's a wonderful place. And I think all people love and enjoy who are living here. So it has so much to offer. So I hope that all stakeholders will achieve this, that people stay here and further develop the country jointly. But as said, there's a lot to do. The German-Romanian Chamber of Commerce and Industry is ready to support also in this direction for sure, to develop here a roadmap on these different areas, what of course, is also related to talents and migration topics.
Thank you so much. Now we have 12, 14, 15 minutes more left, and maybe there are questions from the participants. You could write them in your chat, in our chat, and I will take them and just present them to our panelists. So we are waiting for your questions. I have one more question, Mr. Lear. How could AHK support investors, not only from Germany, to come to Romania? Because it would be maybe a possibility to extend the operation of the German-Romanian Chamber of Economic and Industry.
I mean, what we are doing with the AHK, we have a broad spectrum of offers. I think that is already well acknowledged and appreciated by all coming here to Romania from Germany, but also Romanian companies are going to Germany. So what we do is fostering now the one or other event in Germany and here in Romania in order to show the attractiveness of this investment place. And yeah, as said, we also we are very much engaged with the government already. I think there's still a lot more to do. So we are ready to join this exciting journey together with the governmental teams, maybe, I don't know, with the top 20 companies, with associations. So we are doing a lot. So we are giving our hand. So we are ready to support. And I'm quite confident that this opportunity now, what comes here, and this need of a new way of working together between politics, industry, and society, if this will be achieved and we try to move in this direction, then we can also create further good investment stimulus here in Romania.
I have a question from Radu, and he asks, what are the German investors expecting from the Romanian government to invest more in Moldova and Muntenia regions, so in the eastern and southern part of Romania?
So I'm not a regional expert after 2 years, so to say so, and I've not traveled in all the areas. But what I would say is first is of course infrastructure. So if there is if there's a highway, if there's a good railway, that would already deliver a lot what is needed. So and you cannot believe how many hours I spend sometimes here in Romania on the roads, where one say, hey, it's only 200 kilometers, but then you are five hours somewhere driving. I mean, with this, I think I would say first is infrastructure towards this region.
And second, maybe is the dual system, because we know it's very strong in the central and western region of Romania, in Transylvania, in the Banat region. We have very good best practice examples in Kronstadt, in Brașov, in other towns, but not in the eastern and southern part. How difficult is it to implement the dual system? How good is the cooperation with the Ministry of Education? Because as you might know, there are some information that not all ministers in the past supported the program of the dual system.
So yeah, what I'm gonna say, we achieved a lot together with German companies. For sure, there is more to do, and we will go and talk in discussions again with the ministries here, state secretaries. So this is of course of high agenda on AHK agenda.
Maybe Mr. Eisenhut has experience with this issue, the dual system.
Well, we had very good experience in the starting point 2012 and was highly supported by the local authorities. But as soon as you see a change of the local authorities, also that momentum can really stall or even stop. So we had a hard time in the last 2 years, I would say, to keep that system really up and running and expanding. And so it highly depends on if the local authorities are convinced by the system and are really supporting it. And that is one of the points where central political influence would certainly help to strengthen that system. I think it's a fantastic result. We are now educating alone in Brașov around 800 to 1,000 young people a year into real technical jobs comparable to a 3-year apprenticeship program inside Germany. A lot of them are doing later on their bachelors. And the big benefit, 90% are staying in the region of Brașov and getting employed by the companies who are supporting that program. And I think there's not enough advocates also pitching that outside the local communities, that this system is up, running and working and basically needs only a copy-paste into other regions. And I think every help of the AHK and every other community supporting the German businesses inside the Romania region would be very helpful here. And also to more share those successes, because it is not really sure that this system is really always supported whenever administration is moving. And that is one of the points when I always talk with Mr. Podarash, our leader for the site in Brașov, where we struggle most. Our growth is not limited by energy or by space of the area. It is limited by good people. And second, then by infrastructure and the Carpath Mountains, certainly to bring big bearings down. Could see a real improvement, a 3.2 meter bearing to drive through there. It is no fun at all and always really complex and complicated. So I would say wherever you want to develop something, you need to adapt that school system and getting real fans of it. And number secondly, a real good infrastructure of getting it up and running, that you can go in and out. And certainly that is also true for Brașov and some other areas. I have worked in Arad before. Local infrastructure of suppliers. That is still a point where we struggle. We have far too many imports into Romania from the overall perspective. So that's the third point, trying to answer that question out of the audience.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Bruch, we have a proposal from you, from Andres Tolerio for you. He writes, I can propose you a huge energy solution for Germany and Europe. Let's get in touch. Moderators, please put us in contact. So I'll do my best. Andres Tolerio and Mr. Bruch, please get in contact. Maybe we have indeed a huge energy solution for Europe. Mr. Bruch, the dual system, how important is it for you and your business?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, let's say happy to pick up the collaboration. I mean, there's Peter Rusit, our, let's say, managing director in Romania, and obviously it's a good point, right? Because at the end, energy solutions do not stop at borders. CO2 doesn't stop at a border. And you can interestingly see currently in the US how challenging it is to run a system if you take Texas, if you try to be, let's say, an island on your own. And you try to change the energy mix. So I welcome always a pan-European perspective on this. And let's say we will pick it up as also our local managing director. On the dual system, it's something which Siemens and now Siemens Energy is something taken very, very serious, also together with AHK. And we have actually in every country where we move in, where we also really build country electrification plans, also moved always with the dual system. And I think everything what has been said, I can only underline. If you start it, it's also a long-term exercise, and really boundary conditions have to be set that this engine can be kept running. My experiences are very positive, let's say, in terms of having very loyal, well-educated local workforce. But it really needs to be fully locally supported and seen as a long-term exercise. And then I have seen it very successful everywhere on the globe. I have to say it's a good system, and it's something what German companies are. There's really something to offer between government and German companies and institutions like AHK. And that is a strong argument, but it really needs to be supported from all ends. If the government and the local authorities do not support it, it's not the company alone who can make it successful.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. We are coming to an end. We have 2 more minutes. So if you, Mr. Lear, would address the last 3 or 4 sentences for this panel, then we just shut and close our panel and pass it to Sebastian, our good friend in Bucharest.
Thank you, Mr. Schwarz. As said, the German-Romanian Chamber of Commerce and Industry is ready to join this exciting journey together with the government teams and has our full support. These times are never better than now, so we would like to encourage really everyone to do this together, to act now, develop a roadmap, considering different areas we tackle today, act quickly, and encourage the business and society to attend. It's a great opportunity what we see. And with this, I think we can become really more successful here in Romania in future as we are already. So there's a lot to do.
Thank you, Vaga Moyet, Markus Eisenhut, Christian Bruch, and Andreas Lear.
In this round, please, cordially thank once again the Prime Minister and Deputy Prime Minister, Mr. Bana, and you, Mr. Schwarz, for the moderation and all panel participants. So many thanks also for the AHK team, for the engagement of all and the preparation and facilitation. Many, many thanks.
Yes, thank you, Sebastian. Thank you, the team in Bucharest. And thank you all over the world. Bye-bye. Have a nice time and take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Robert. Now it's work like in the television with the news. The call comes from Berlin and goes back to Bucharest. So I really feel like a television moderator. Robert, thank you very much. Andreas, thank you. And of course, Mr. Bruch and Mr. Moyet and Mr. Eisenhut for your insight. It was a very, very interesting panel. I learned a lot, also new insights. And I'm really looking forward to collect this energy and to put it in the right direction. And the right direction is in cooperation, we will manage the challenges of the future here in Romania and in Germany. So, we will now come to a lunch break from 12:30 until 1:30. But you can choose whether you want to have a lunch break or a networking. This is not a problem for us because we found a very innovative digital solution for digital networking, and really it works. Find it out. You have the access through our digital platform on Swapcard. You just click on Networking Lounge, and then you have really a digital lunch break where you can act with all the participants which are in the digital room. It only works with the Google Chrome browser, and it only works when you work on the desktop or on a laptop, not with your mobile device. We will continue at 1:30 with 2 parallel thematic workshops. The one is production industry 4.0 and R&D, and the other one is Green Deal. For the Green Deal, we have the Minister for Energy, Mr. Popescu, and the Minister for Environment, Mr. Tankos. And for the production and R&D, we have the personal advisor for the Minister of Research with us. So it will be definitely a very, very fruitful discussion that we have, and of course also very interesting cooperative company representative. And in the afternoon, starting at 3 o'clock, we will have our last 2 parallel workshops, one on infrastructure with the Minister of Transport, Mr. Drula, and the other one, Smart Cities and Regions, with the participation of Mr. Čeke, the Minister for Environment. So I think this day is full of information, full of exchange. I hope that you liked it until now, and that you will join us also later. Have a nice lunch and have a fruitful digital networking right now. Thank you very much. We will see us at 1:30 here.
Сейчас